Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, his nickname isn't Sean either, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
It's Shang-Chi.
And he's cuter than any faceless, winged, butted monster, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear. And how's he the master of Kung Fu when he's at best like the fourth most Kung Fu-y in this movie?
No, we got to figure it out. But we are back, everybody, and this week we are talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi, well, you know, it'll like, you remember when Chiwetel Ejiofor, got like real big for the first time in like Children of Men and stuff, and we were all like, how do we say that guy's name? And now it all flows back. I think this will end up being that eventually as well. We'll all get to that point where we're saying it flawlessly, but if it creeps in on the Shang-Chi, real American-like and everything, apologies ahead of time, I guess.
If it helps, the white guy who created the character calls him Shang-Chi.
Oh, there you go. And who amongst us doesn't look to the white creator for the end-all be-all of the
I gotta tell you, if I had one problem with this movie, is there wasn't enough white guys involved with making it.
I feel wildly underrepresented, but we will talk about Shang-Chi. And oh my gosh, though, dude, like, you know what they aren't underrepresented at? The box office, because Shang-Chi kind of destroyed this weekend, $83.5 million, bringing it up to $139 million global, which is pretty sweet.
Well, has it opened in China?
I don't know about that because they don't do it as well as they used to on this site since IMDb bought them out.
Because this has to make more money in China than that Warcraft movie did, and that made a lot.
Well,
I got to tell you, this is my first time back at the movie theater since the lockdown.
Hey, well, that's you picked a quite a good one to go back to. But
I sure did, and I was very surprised with the amount of people in the theater. Like, I thought that there would be a little less. No, not at all.
No, there's because things have been kind of opened up like for the past couple of months and stuff. Like, I think a lot of those early jitters are kind of starting to get out of the way and everything, and people are showing up. You got to go a little masky mask, but they're showing up anyways, boy. It looks like it had to be this and not necessarily Black Widow, because Black Widow didn't do super great, but this is showing that, man, people want to jump into this next phase of Marvel and everything. But before we do all that, we do want to say a big thank you to those of you who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Doesn't matter what level you support at with this show, you get the pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, and of course get to watch vote on a movie that we watch each month. So this week, joining HMP crew at the level of $2, we have Robert Fu Sean, a nickname, if you please.
So Robert Foose, if you've been listening, it means that you know that I have been doing a little bit of research on folks' names lately instead of just pulling something out the butt. So what I've been doing is looking around, scratching around, seeing what your name's all about. And I didn't even have to like really scratch around on the internet that hard, because my good friend and the only person that I've ever seen screamed at by a guy who was running an open mic night, Adam Portress, told me that there's actually an auto designer named Chip Foose, who I'm sure you know with the last name of Foose. He has had to have come up at times. He is, in 2003, he won the whatever award you win for if you design cars, for the Plymouth Prowler.
Oh yeah.
And so Chip Foose is the guy who created that, the Plymouth Prowler. And a lot of people love the design of that car. I'm not one of them. I think it looks ridiculous, but that's me. I am not a road rat guy.
Did you know that Tony Stark actually drove one of those in the comics right around those times? Like somebody, whatever, they drew him in there. I remember reading an Iron Man comic where he was driving around in a Plymouth Prowler.
I got to tell you, I was never that big a fan of Iron Man, as a comic book, until they really stepped up the game just before the movie came out, and all of that crazy stuff started happening with him. And I was like, oh, good.
Sean Chin era is my stuff.
Say what?
Like the Warren Ellis stuff? Yeah,
the Warren Ellis stuff was just so good. And the Civil War stuff and all that. That was all really great. So Robert Foose, your new HMP nickname is going to be the Plymouth Prowler.
Perfect. The Plymouth Prowler. Okay, so continuing on here.
Sounds like a serial cat burglar from Plymouth, Massachusetts, but I like it.
But that's what makes it so great.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second, guys.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Bale's here.
We interrupt this Patreon to get you a message from a new Patreon supporter, Brock from Australia, entitled, Paul Hogan is not a national treasure. And it reads as follows. And he wrote it like this, so my guess is this is more or less how he wants me to do it. Apologies to the people of Australia. G'day, g'day, HMP. Crikey, but it's bloody great podcast you blokes threw together every week. Yeah, but honestly, I've been filling
Hold on a second. Let me help you with your terrible accent.
Please.
So what always helps me is that I have a little thing that I say whenever I'm trying to do a different accent. Mm-hmm. So the one that I use for Australia is this. Do you mind if we call you Bruce to keep it clear?
Yeah.
We do. All right, so yeah. Nah, honestly, I've been filling my ears with your show for a few years now, and I fair dinkum reckon you're worth the $7 dues I'm chucking in. And who knows, mate, if this gets read on the show, I may even butt it up another level. Unfortunately, Sean, we aren't slipping any prawns on the Barbies at the moment as we are locked down, but the bottle-o is still open so the Brogans can get their Bundy. I don't know what this means. And now that it's warming up here, I can do more gardening in my budgie smugglers and thongs. Again, this is a family program. I've got a heap of dead stubbies in the back of the ute I need to chuck at the tip. Come on, man. And anyway, good on you for everything you fellas do. I'm off to get pissed. Cheers. Brock from Australia, a.k.a. Badger Brock.
Badger Brock, that was great. Thank you, man.
I'm craving a bloomin' onion now.
Man, you guys, it's amazing. And also,
You're Australia.
Why are you crediting me with the shrimp on the Barbie when I would never have done that? Anyway, here's the thing that I wanted to bring up. Thank God you have that soundbite from The Simpsons, because as we all know, those folks aren't litigious at all. So
nope.
Thank you for doing
as far as I'm concerned, that was Gary Larson did that.
Uh-huh.
No one listens to this show. Anyways, up next, we have an email and support jump this week from our good buddy Matt Schnapp, a.k.a. Matt Schnapp. Matt actually doubled up and dropped 40 on us this month.
Dang.
And wrote in an email. What? He wrote us an email entitled Ninja Scroll. That's undoubtedly about it being in our choices for Patreon Select. So Matt writes, "Oh, you think it would be easy to talk about Ninja Scroll and keep it family friendly, do you? I'm throwing down the gauntlet. Put a discussion of the movie in a dinger zone. I dare you. Go ahead. Talk about the brainwashing scene, or when the Chamberlain gets briefed on the changing political situation, or how the big rock guy gets defeated. And why the heck do you want to talk about Ninja Scroll when Neon Genesis Evangelion is on Netflix and would make a much easier and probably more interesting watch? And the final Rebuild movie just got released on Amazon Prime on the 12th. Not that I suggest you watch that movie. It makes no darn sense without the context. But I digress. There's my challenge to you. Do what you will with it." That was from our good buddy Matt.
I watched Neon Genesis Evangelion at Dragon Con a few years back.
I've heard nothing but good things about that. I will say this: when we put the Ninja Scroll up there, that really was more or less like I saw it like in high school, and I barely remember it. I mean, that was probably 25 years ago at this, close to that at this point. But I will watch it again, and I will make a report in a Dinger Zone episode and tell you how bad it is. I don't want to put these two through it if it's as bad as that, but we will do that. But Neon Genesis Evangelion, maybe we could put that in that somewhere.
It's a good movie.
So we'll figure all that kind of good stuff out. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. So with that said, let's check out the other top supporters for this month. As just mentioned, Matt Schnapp jumps up to that $40 level, but he's got some buddies up there with him as well, with Derrick and Tim. They keep it stocked at that $40 level, Matt. They got you in that VIP section, so don't you worry. We certainly don't want to forget those that come in at the $20 level. Brian, Jessica, Nate, and Alex, thank you guys so much for filling up that $20 level nicely. But fear not, everybody. We got more spaces up there if there's anyone else that would like to join them. Of course, we'd also like to thank anyone who came in below that $20 level. That's our most popular one is the $5 a month support. They're pretty much the backbone to all this stuff. But no matter what your level, just know that it means a lot to us. So we all give money to big giant corporations and everything that don't care about us, but we'll actually give you a shout out on the show. Bryan Cranston don't care about you, but we do. I don't know why I put Bryan Cranston in there.
Yeah, why Bryan Cranston?
It just, I know he seems like the nicest guy in the world, but at the same time,
does he have a podcast?
Does he have a podcast where he'll shout you out and stuff like that? I don't think so. At least not to my knowledge. If he does, let me know because I'll listen to a Bryan Cranston podcast.
It's now my goal in life to get Bryan Cranston to say my name in public.
Mm-hmm. So if you would like to vote on what we watch, get the pre-show, post-show dinger zone, and get yourself a nickname, head on over to patreon.com/HMP and join up today. We really appreciate it. And of course, as always, if money's tight, just share the show with a friend of yours. Leave a review on iTunes, all that kind of stuff. We got all of it going on. Let's get into it. Here is the trailer for Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings.
Hey, can we get real for a second? We've been friends for 10 years. I know that you don't like to talk about your life, but a guy with a freaking machete for an arm just chopped our butts in half. DJ Snake. Who are you?
Run it. Only talking, making major moves. My father trained me to be the 10 Rings' greatest weapon. On the road to riches, I can never lay around. But that's not who I am. Me against the world, I got my back against the wall. How did you find me? I always know where my children are. Me against the world, I got my back against the wall.
Seems like a nice fella.
It's time to show the world. No, I'm hellbound, but I'm well now. Who I really am. No one will ever stop.
Oh, hell no, I'm not doing this.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings. If you're like most moviegoers, you have no idea how all of this relates back to comics, but you know who does?
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for us this week?
Shang-Chi first appeared in Special Marvel Edition number 15 in December 1973, and he was created by Jim Starlin. And as Adam knows very well, I once hosted a panel with Jim Starlin. Mm-hmm. I sat right next to the man and I asked him, can we talk about another character you created, Shang-Chi? As soon as those words came out of my mouth, Starlin began apologizing. Yeah, it made me kind of wish I hadn't brought it up, but I mentioned it because I thought Shang-Chi is cool and I like Kung Fu. And I figured I'd never get another chance to talk about the master of Kung Fu with Jim Starlin again in my life. Well, I pretty much stuck my foot in my mouth with that one. You guys may be shocked to hear this, but in 1973, comic books didn't treat Chinese culture with what you'd call sensitivity. Huh. Apparently, those early issues leaned pretty heavily on negative stereotypes. And I'm going to guess that Jim Starlin probably faced a good bit of criticism about that in his life. But I can tell you firsthand, he is sorry about that. His apology was as sincere as I think an apology can be, but I wasn't trying to set him up to apologize or to make amends. I was just talking comics. Heaven knows I'm the last guy who would try to cancel Jim Starlin. But you know what? Good old Mr. Starlin taught me about more than comics that day. He taught me a little bit about life. And you know how this story comes full circle? My debut comic story for issue 1 of The Vigilant, published by UK comic book company 2000 AD, was a story centered on a Chinese woman. And I thought to myself, if somebody asked me about this story in 45 years, you know what? I don't think I want to have to start with an apology. So I gave it my best shot at being authentic. I mean, as authentic as I can be, writing a story about a woman ripping conjoined boards apart with her bare hands, but I stayed away from anything that might have occurred like in any American movie or television made before, say, 2015. But back to Shang-Chi. The biggest problems with those early comics weren't necessarily the depictions of Shang-Chi, but those of his father. You see, in the movie, his father is Zhu Wenwu, but in the comics, it was a different name. Oh, it rhymed, but it was different, because instead of Zhu Wenwu, it was Fu Manchu. And just in case you didn't know, Fu Manchu is about the most offensive collection of Chinese stereotypes available. his own creator, English author Sax Rohmer, said that Fu Manchu represented Eastern devilry and the unemotional cruelty of the Chinese. When the 1932 film The Mask of Fu Manchu was released in America, the Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. issued a formal complaint against the film. In the 1940s, the U.S. State Department had to tell Hollywood to quit making Fu Manchu movies because it was China who was our main Asian ally during World War II. And thankfully, Hollywood stopped being racist forever. To get to the point, it's probably best for that character to stay in the past. And also, all you truckers and high school football coaches out there, what's up with the Fu Manchu mustaches? Either go full goatee or just sport the Wilford Brimley push broom. Quit keeping that unfortunate legacy alive. But Shang-Chi is cool. Adam, get me out of this and read your list.
Yes, if that comic connection wasn't enough for you, let me sell everybody on Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings, because this movie has everything. First and foremost, it's a Marvel movie from the director of Short Term 12, which I didn't know that would ever be a thing. But here we are. That's a good thing, though. First and foremost, it's an honest-to-goodness martial arts movie, full stop. We've got connections to the MCU, but it in no way feels restricted by that. And if you take them out completely, you'd probably not even have a complaint if you didn't know that it was an MC movie. We also got wire work, bus fights, scaffolding fights. We've got a faceless winged dogs, dragons. Ben Kingsley is back. We got a dude with a sword for an arm, yet we call him Razor. I don't understand that. Speaking of which, that's also one of the worst cars in all of cinema history. Aquafina is a delight. Simu Liu is about as perfectly cast as you can get. And we got to talk about the martial arts movies legends that we have in this movie. First up, we got Michelle Yeoh, who got her big break in Jackie Chan's Super Cop. She would actually go on to headline Super Cop 2. She also did Tai Chi Master and Fearless with Jet Li, Tomorrow Never Dies, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Gunpowder Milkshake, many, many more. She is just one of the biggest. And I can't believe it took us till 2021 to actually get an American movie debut from Tony Leung. Certified legend, this boy. He is about to hit 100 credits on IMDb. You've got Bullet to the Head and Hard Boiled and Red Cliff with John Woo, Chungking Express, Infernal Affairs, which of course was the movie that Departed was based upon, or vice versa, rather. The man's first movie was Game of Death, so, you know, I think America's finally going to fall in love with Tony Leung like people like I have. And one of the big guys in there that you might know is Yuen Hua, who is the bowmaster in this movie. He's got a list of credits that's going to make your head spin. Tony Leung's first movie was Game of Death. Who cares? His first movie was actually Fist of Fury with Bruce Lee. So he's got that. And he started 191 other movies. But our audience would probably most recognize him as the landlord from Stephen Chow's Kung Fu Hustle. And if you know the...
yeah. Wow.
Exactly. Now, if you know the landlord and the landlady from Kung Fu Hustle actually have two spin-off movies called Kung Fu Mahjong and Kung Fu Mahjong 2 that I would highly recommend if you saw what you enjoyed what you saw in Kung Fu Hustle. Kung Fu Mahjong 1 and 2, starring those two, is just a fantastic over-the-time top. And we got a stinger that gets you pumped for a new Uncharted phase of the MCU, man. This movie's got everything.
That was a good one, buddy.
Thank you. But it was I was super, I knew really little to nothing about this. I think I saw whatever the teaser trailer was probably once. I didn't have a clue. The way, it's almost like the same thing with the Eternals. I saw a little something, but nothing to make it register at all. But man, oh man, I really like this movie, and it turns out it looks like the rest of the world does too. It's 92% on Rotten Tomatoes with critics and 98% with the audience.
Now, my wife watched this movie in New York City,
mm-hmm.
and apparently she had a pretty good crowd. She said they actually applauded, stood up, and cheered when this movie was over. So definitely finding a definite fan base in some places for sure.
People were walking out at the movie theater Thursday night, and you could just see on people's faces they had a good time, and you didn't hear a couple of other coworkers went to see it, and no one had a bad word to say. Everyone was just like, "No, that was pretty great."
I've got a bit, but overall, I really like this movie. There is something about Awkwafina. I cannot describe it to you. She is immediately the funniest person in the world the second she starts speaking, I think it's because her voice is just so funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
I love her face. It's so expressive and wonderful.
She's even got like the body language with the face, because she's got like a very specific way she holds her body and everything that you know is specifically for all this great comedic effect like that. And I think that's a thing that people don't really notice, is like she's standing and moving in very specific ways and stuff as well. And I love it.
She is so wonderful. I have been a fan of hers for a very long time, and my word, she's just so well cast in this movie.
Do you know she was her rap career, Sean?
No, I didn't know her as a rap star. I only knew her as a comedian.
She was actually the first person cast in this movie.
Huh.
And actually had a little bit of say about who her co-star was. And
like,
really?
And she's like, yeah, he's good. When they they asked her about it, and because they have to have some chemistry, in order to rock the movie well, and she's like, nope, this is the guy. I think this is the guy for us. And man,
wow. And I've seen her like in commercials and stuff. Like, obviously I knew who she was, but this might be the first movie that I've seen her in.
Did you see the Oceans?
It was a nice debut performance. I didn't see any Oceans movie with Awkwafina.
No, okay.
Was she in Oceans 8?
She was, the
I didn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but she's also got that show on Comedy Central and
Nora from Queens.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah, but I haven't watched it. Like, I know she's got stuff, but when I looked over her work, it wasn't anything I'd ever seen. But she's definitely charismatic in like commercials and stuff when I have seen her. So this was sort of like my Awkwafina debut, and you know what? I like her. I agree with everything you said, Sean.
So, like going
your wardrobe too.
Yes,
I like your pants. All right. So, what did you guys have any? You didn't really say this. Did you read any? I mean, extensively. I know you knew of Shang-Chi and stuff.
I didn't read anything extensively. No, but I like every kid, I loved Kung Fu. So every now and then, if I got a chance, I would pick up like Hands of Kung Fu or Hands of Death or whatever they were called. So I've read a little bit here and there, but Shang-Chi always kind of had like the backseat to Iron Fist for whatever reason at Marvel. So I read way more Iron Fist. And even though they seem like a natural pair, they rarely like seem to team up back in the 80s, 90s. And, I read a lot of Karate Kid, but Shang-Chi is one of those cool characters that was almost kind of cool because it was harder to get your hands on them because there weren't as much of it out there. And, your grandma's going to frown if you're at the drugstore and you try to, they weren't in the drugstore by the time I was at the spinner rack, but just say I was 6 years older when I was at the drugstore. If I wanted to grab something called Hands of Kung Fu or Master of Kung Fu, Hands of Death, she's not going to let me pick that up.
Hands of Death. You put that back, young man. I was kind of surprised or not surprised, I guess we can say delighted that we are at a time now when a mainstream comic book movie like this doesn't feel like it has to, have all of these people who would not be speaking English. I really like that. The fact that the opening narration, even the narration, which doesn't have to be subtitled, but it was, and that it gave it a sense of, a realness and not, this straight comic booky stuff, because we're going to get wildy, crazy comic booky stuff in this movie, but they didn't set it up that way. It didn't feel like, the standard Hollywood American movie.
Until the end, it felt so much like a Kung Fu movie. I mean, of course, you got his dad with those 10 rings, but until the end, it almost felt like, how's this guy going to hang with the Avengers? But they managed to have that solved by the end. But yeah, it felt like just a cool martial arts movie, action movie. It felt more sometimes like maybe a little closer to Snake Eyes in terms of the grandiosity. We're not having earth-changing gods and beings here. But we have had kind of a strange progression in improving quality of movies from Mortal Kombat to Snake Eyes to this.
It's an upward trajectory, so that's at least good.
Yeah. I'm glad this one came out last of the three, because if this one came out first, those other two would have been
now you've got to go see Mortal Kombat. You'd be like, why am I even watching this garbage? I will say this, the fight scenes in this thing are fantastic. And it turns out, I forgot the guy's name, I didn't write it down, but the main fight choreographer is one of these dudes who's been around and has worked with like Jackie Chan all the way back to kind of a lot of his American stuff and all through like the Rush Hour films and whatnot. And when you look at this stuff, you can see a lot of that influence. And of course, even before then, Yen Wu Ping influence on Jackie Chan for that and stuff. So that's what I really liked, is that the action in this was top notch. And like I said, this is a straight martial arts movie, and they concentrated on the most important thing, is the fight sequences.
And I'm so glad that the director brought in, well, I don't know who brought in that choreographer, but we all probably had some concerns when you see this director, who is a good director. Like, I really enjoyed The Glass Castle. I know that wasn't one that everybody would enjoy, but I like The Glass Castle. I never saw Short Term 12. He did
Just Mercy recently. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Just Mercy. Also, I thought of an extraordinarily well-directed film, but it was hard for me to see that director making this movie.
Yeah,
but
it's very
worked,
different,
man. It worked. I get the idea. He's one of those guys that knows how to ask for help when you need help or whatever. Like, he got in the right people for this.
Yeah, and it's not only the action scenes that they nail, but they nail the comedy scenes too. The way they shoot it, because it can be hard. Hold on a second. It can be very hard to not have Marvel style jokes in all of your Marvel movies, mm-hmm. and the jokes in this movie are not your typical Marvel style jokes. Like they're like cut jokes, they're framed jokes, like they're really good.
And is it fair to say, Adam, that there weren't a whole lot of laughs in Just Mercy or The Glass Castle?
No, they're not usually laugh riots.
Those are definitely bummers, both of those.
Short Term 12's not a super great time either.
Yeah. So amazing. We're seeing a whole new dimension to this guy that directed this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And of course, the guy, one of the guys that writ it was this David Callahan, who we've seen kind of jump all across the board with everything, because he did like the Wonder Woman just recently and a couple of other things. It's like you go good, bad, like his kind of all over the place. So, but he's doing the Expendables 4 now, so you're like, oh crap,
oh boy.
But going into this, I did have high hopes for the comedy, Sean, because you're casting Awkwafina and Simu Liu. I'm going to expect some, both comedic actors.
Yeah, I know, but and that's what I mean, is that one of the worst things in the world is having all this talent and then not using it properly. We see that time and again. Yeah. But to have somebody able to frame jokes in their shots and make it work and not make it, because this movie looks like a Marvel movie. I mean, it looks like it's another Marvel movie, which is fine by me. I like the way that Marvel movies look for the most part, but to be able to frame it in a way where, because think of how flat the jokes are in Age of Ultron. Like, those jokes are very flat, and it's because the jokes aren't great, but also they're framed wrong. And so to have everything set up and punch, cut, smash cut 2, karaoke bar, like that stuff is great and works very well, and you have to be able to shoot that right.
Yeah, speaking of which, just because you kind of reminded me there, and again, for those of you who've never listened to the show, I'm sure you have probably figured it out at this point, but we'll be spoiling everything, so just to
everything.
I love the fact that we get to this underground fight thing, and we've got Wong fighting. What's his name there? Abomination. I'm like, I know it starts with an A.
It was, and I'm not a big fan of that Incredible Hulk movie. I went on the record with that when we reviewed that, but I wasn't sure where Abomination was at the end of that movie. Like, how did he manage to get here? I thought he was in custody or something. But uncredited, they did get Tim Roth back to make the grunting noises and stuff.
Hey, good money if you can get it, right, Tim?
It's almost like the Abomination is going to have a very big part in the MCU coming up.
That'd be cool.
But I also liked how at the end of the fight, it was just like, they were regular fighters just kind of giving, hey, you all right there, Pally boy? Patting him on the back, just going, we'll make it right next time.
Finally, after 45 years of being a punchline, Wong is getting his chance to shine.
Dude, I gotta tell you, man, I would be totally fine, and this is gonna seem sacrilegious. I would be totally fine with a magic movie that didn't have Doctor Strange in it, and it was all Wong.
Yeah. Hey, man, I said it all the way back on our review of Doctor Strange 1978. Kids love the Wong character. I was right then, and I've been right for the past 6 years or however long it's been since we did
Wong is awesome. Like, I love the actor. I love that character. Because I think one of the problems that I have with Doctor Strange is that accent is so bad.
I do like how it starts to become pretty obvious that they made a conscious choice not to have Benedict Cumberbatch in this movie, like not even at the mid credits or the end credits.
He's off busy shooting other stuff for the other films.
He's going to be in the Spider-Man. He's going to be in his own movie. You
can give him an afternoon from the same location in front of a green screen.
Well, here's the thing, though. You can spread it too thin, I think, if you're not careful. But we get to, like, okay, I love all of these. Like I said, my biggest excitement for all of this is seeing these Kung Fu movie legends and stuff. I love the first fight scene, which was obviously, you've got Tony Leung in this, and he was in Hero, which is like, and this is very much that same kind of, beautiful artistic, wire work and everything with all the great, colors and stuff. And it was just
which
so
first
much
fight
fun.
Scene are you talking about?
The first one in the Talo, I believe it's called.
Okay, right? So when he's fighting with his future wife.
Exactly. And that whole...
Strangely enough, my wife and I met that exact same way.
Fighting?
Her kicking your ass?
Yeah, more or less.
I was about to say, that's probably more accurate.
Man, it was a beautiful scene, though.
It was so great. And again, that shows you what ultimately... It took me a long time to understand, kind of martial arts films and really what they were and what they were trying to accomplish, because as a kid it all just seems, which is fun, is all the beat 'em up and punches and stuff. But then when you get to a certain age, you're like, oh, I'm a little bit above this. But then you come back around and go, wait a minute, no, this is Kung Fu movies are a lot like musicals. You go to musicals for the songs and the dances and all that kind of stuff. And Kung Fu movies, you're going there for the fights. You're going, the story itself is just an excuse to bring you into that next choreographed sequence and everything. And this has that, but obviously, it's not 1972, and we can write a really good story in between all of those great beats. But that scene in particular just really showed how it is. It's this dance that we're seeing. We're going there for this, and the fights are dancing essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it felt way more Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon than a lot of other Kung Fu movies you could throw out there, I thought.
I mean, and when you got Michelle Yeoh and Crouching Tiger, hey, why not?
Yeah.
Get the lady from there.
One thing I did think, though, is like that ability to make those swirls of wind wouldn't be nearly as impressive if there wasn't a lot of small debris around.
Right.
Like you do that in a freshly swept gymnasium, nobody's impressed. But you do it with all those little pine needles or whatever.
I'm floating around a little bit. Yeah, good for you. What do you want?
Or a place that has a lot of like dirty trash around. That would be bad too.
Yeah, just like old hamburger wrappers from McDonald's flying in the air.
You know where this Kung Fu scene would be done really well? In a back alley in Blade. Just a lot of trash just floating around everywhere. Loose, I mean, mostly notebook paper, but that's all they had.
Which reminds me, do you think that Awkwafina made everybody call her Katie on set like Wesley Snipes did on Blade?
Oh,
just showing up high every day, not reading any of the scripts. Oh, Wesley, you're a delight.
Wong does the same thing.
But so yeah, the interdimensional stuff with Wong, and it was really great seeing all that, and again opens up all of those little areas for the future of all that. And we'll talk about that in Dingertone, of course.
Cool.
All right. Well,
yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to get us into a talking mood there, Adam. To end on a definite.
Well, I thought I was.
Well, how are we supposed to add to that? Yeah, we sure are, Adam.
I want to talk about a few things here. Let's talk about.
That's where I thought it would go. That's okay. The next sentence I thought someone would say is, "I've got something."
That almost sounded like whatever you want to say. Save it. We're doing the Dinger Zone. And I look at the clock and think, wow.
No, okay, all right.
Shortest episode ever.
Fair enough. Okay, all right. Well, now that we've all had a good time, what do you got?
I'll say that, like, one thing that I was pretty impressed with was how physical Simu Liu could be. And I apologize if I'm not pronouncing his name exactly right. But, I know him from Kim's Convenience.
Yeah.
And he does a great job with the physicality here. And then just, you can't believe everything on Wikipedia, but a quick glance said that he actually worked as a stuntman before he was on Kim's Convenience. So he is a physical person.
And I got to say, the difference between, and I look, I know this is unfair, but the difference between him and the the blonde boy who plays Iron Fist.
Yeah.
It is literally just night and day where, like I really want to see these two in a room together. And I really want to see, Shang-Chi just beat the living crap out of that guy.
I was going to say, forget Shang-Chi. Real life, who do you think wins, Simu Liu or Finn McMissile? I can't remember that guy's last name.
Did you just say McMissile? Because that
Yes.
should be his name, Finn McMissile.
I can never remember his last name, but I know his first name's Finn.
His last name is McMissile. We have already
Finn
said
McMissile.
it.
I think we've solved this
Done
case
and
already.
done. Wipe your hands.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I was really concerned with was I didn't know if this guy knew kung fu or choreography or dance choreography or any of that stuff that you need to know all of those things to be a martial arts star. And it needs to be able to hold up and look great and not camera cuts and ridiculousness. So when he, right off of the bat, just starts whooping on people in that bus, I was like, oh, this is going to be a completely different thing.
Yeah, again, hadn't seen much of the trailer and stuff. I'd seen pictures of the guy, and I had the same thought, Sean. I was like, man, I hope this guy can move. And when he just turns it on in the bus and everything, it is like, oh no, we are in very good hands. Like right away, the way this guy moves, he is just going to be fantastic in this role because he moves so seamless. I love it.
Adam, you recall the Heroes reboot?
Mm-hmm.
He was a stuntman in that show. So,
wow, that's cool.
Okay.
Stepped in and did some of the fight scenes there.
I got to say, in that bus scene, one of the things that really bummed me out was that I was hoping that it would be like a Bourne Identity, but with martial arts kind of a thing. Like,
I had that same thought too. It was very Bourne Identity, where all of a sudden it just kind of clicked on for him and everything. I love that.
Nothing like that wide shot of a dude staring at his fists, wondering how he just did that thing.
Huh?
If I ever get in a fight, I'm hoping I got that thing going on.
Yeah, exactly. You just wait until hopefully, oh man, I should not have started this. I don't have that inside of me.
Over me, and I'm a killer.
I got bit by Gina Davis, and now I have.
I'm an archery genius now.
Something's got to kick in any second now, right? Isn't that how it works? You just put yourself in peril.
Maybe I'm a drunken master. Quick, get me a beer.
And I got to tell you, this thing just kept surprising just how high a level that this whole thing works on. There's one thing that does not work for me at all, and we'll get to it when we get to it. And you guys probably have already guessed what it is. But where again and again and again, I kept thinking that they were going to do a thing that they never did, and it was better than what I thought they were going to do. And it happened time and time again. And I was just so pleased with it. When they get to when they finally reveal that he is the master of kung fu, even though no one ever says that, he's, boy, that guy's really good.
Do they even say the words kung fu in this anyway?
I don't think that they did.
If they do, it may be only once, but I don't remember it very well at all.
But when they finally get to that point and Awkwafina is like, what? You like that kind of thing? I thought that was going to go on forever, and I'm very glad that it didn't. It was like 2 scenes were out.
Yeah.
Oh man, there was another moment where I was glad the story didn't go somewhere I was anticipating, because he tells Awkwafina how his father gave him a knife and said, go to America and assassinate this person.
Right.
And he told her he didn't do it. Then later he admits he really did do it. Yeah. I thought it was going to be her father that he assassinated.
Oh man.
Ooh.
Yeah, again, where it pays off, where it's just like, oh, that's very nice. And when he does, and I also really like the reveal that he actually did totally just murder that guy, because there's something less grounding if he's been a fancy boy his entire life,
And like when he goes to breakfast with Awkwafina's family, and they've got like the seat open for the dead guy, and the grandma's giving him cigarettes and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, it's going to turn out that he's who killed that guy. But thank goodness it didn't go that like soap opera.
Yeah, well, Stan Lee didn't write this, which is very good.
Because that's exactly where Snake Eyes went.
They kicked me out of the writer's room before I was able to get in my 2 bits. Miss that guy.
Stan Lee was developing a Shang-Chi movie with Brandon Lee, but he wasn't available eventually.
Stan Lee wasn't.
Stanley had other commitments.
He's busy. Busy.
Yeah, you know what happened.
I gotta go over to DC and write some versions of the Flash that no one will give a crap about.
What if the Green Lantern is all white?
And, I'm going to expose my own ignorance just a little bit, but there was a shocking moment here too, when Sean and Katie are sitting at the table talking about how they met with their friends, or the judgmental friends, I'll call them. Mm-hmm. And they said they met because some guy in the hallway yelled, "Hey, what's up, Gangnam Style?" And he said, "Hey, I'm not Korean." And at that moment, I thought, but I thought you were Korean, because all I know you from is Kim's Convenience. And I had to look it up after the movie, and he's not Korean, but that's just how deeply that character is seated, because I love that show.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I love those characters too, and they're coming back to them. For whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't think that they would come back to them, but they're so good, and I love that couple that's opposite them. They have the best faces because they turn back, and the reaction shots are just like, these people are out of their
it was a great bookend, actually.
It is. It's a very good bookend.
Well, we've got a couple of things.
Oh, Trevor, we got to talk about
I can't
Trevor.
believe we missed Trevor.
Oh man, they brought back Trevor, and in a way, there are a few things in the MCU that made me more upset than the whole Trevor thing from Iron Man 3, but I think they've almost gotten me to forgive him on that with bringing Trevor back here and explaining it all, and then having him be lovely. And I'm sitting there with my son, who's an aspiring actor, and my daughter watching this movie, and that scene where the big fight's happening in Tao Lo, and he's laying there, and I'm like, oh man, Trevor died. And my son goes, he's just acting. And then he looks up and goes, shh, I'm just acting. He predicted it. It was great.
I'm playing a role.
Pardon me. I think so much of that goes into just Ben Kingsley being so darn charming that you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
It is great.
The way he was going on about how did they get those monkeys to ride horses? They're actors, son.
My God.
Oh, so the monkeys are acting like they're riding horses.
Bruce, I knew the second that line was out, I was like, oh, this is Bruce's
best line
favorite
in any Marvel
in the movie.
next to that I have famously huge turds. Those are the two best lines in all
It
of
is
Marvel.
very funny, but immediately I was like, oh, that is a very Bruce joke right there.
You know what? I could have written that, I think.
Has anyone, man, I keep getting sidelined here. Has anyone seen All Hail the King?
I have not.
I don't
short.
think so.
Well, it just came.
Oh, yes,
Disney
yes,
Plus.
that one.
It just came to Disney Plus, but I'd seen it years ago. I can't remember what it's on the end
It
of.
was
I
like
think
on
of Iron Man
YouTube.
3
It was
or
on
something.
YouTube for a long time. Yeah.
And it's great. And Kingsley is, of course, terrific in it. And weirdly, Scoot McNairy is in it. And he is weirdly good in it also. and so it's just one of those things where it was like, oh, this is almost like an apology for what they did to the Mandarin in the movie. Because I love the flippity do that happens in Iron Man 3. I know you were not a fan of it, Bruce, but I liked it. And then to have that little thing for the All Hail the King, it's like, oh, this is the apology clearly from Marvel. That look, see.
It's okay. We understand. We get it. We've got something else that's a little bit better. And they came back, and this was kind of the cherry on top for all of that. It was just like, oh
yeah.
And guys,
Bruce, if you haven't seen it, you should totally see it.
I might now, but I refuse to watch it just because, my opinion was made up for a very long time for
that doesn't
6
sound
years now?
like you.
But guys, What If is paying off because the interdimensional tentacle beast has shown up twice in What If.
Showing up, yeah.
And here it is in the actual MCU, showing us that even the animated What If series is more relevant than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ever was, which is kind of cool. Dan Do, that's for you.
I can't believe it. I'm going back to 1 star.
Did you guys pick up on that? Maybe I'm jumping ahead. Never mind.
No, go ahead, jump ahead, because we started floundering for a minute. We need discussion.
So, did you guys pick up when Shang-Chi's dad, the Mandarin, is saying, the real Mandarin is saying, "Oh, and I affected all of these things in world events," and Tony Stark's capture is one of the things that comes up. So basically what they're saying is that the Mandarin is responsible for Tony Stark and for basically starting the Marvel universe as we know it.
Yes, because that was the real 10 rings that captured Tony Stark and not the fake 10 rings from Iron Man 3.
And that is amazing to me. Like, oh, wow. Like that they were able to like pull something from the original movies and go like, and not that weird thing where like, oh, that's Peter Parker in the Iron Man.
Oh yeah. That's so stupid.
Like this is a real one, you know, like it feels right.
From the beginning, like the history fan in me was just mesmerized by the idea that he was Genghis Khan. Like he said, they call me by many names, Master Khan. And then that thing in the beginning where he's attacking like the Saracens or whatever, that was totally him as Genghis Khan. I love it.
And I like the fact that like they automatically said, it made him immortal. So, boom, we don't have to do any digital de-aging or anything. We just get the man to play himself throughout all the thing, which is just nice.
And I also like it, you know, because there's been multiple origin stories of how the Mandarin got the rings in the comic books. And they said some people claim he found it in a tomb. Some claim he found it from an alien. And, you know, that's like the retcon on the Mandarin in the comics. I really love those nods and not getting bogged down with it.
Yeah, and just saying that
they need to give us a definitive answer.
Exactly. It doesn't really matter. Here's the story. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I got to ask you, Sean, now, who do you prefer? I know the answer. It's a stupid question. Of course, you prefer Taserface, but I feel like Taserface and Razor Fist is the next show, like Winter Soldier and Falcon. The next show should be Taserface and Razor Fist.
I love Taserface so very, very much, but Razor Fist is okay.
Razor Fist, what I like about him is doubling down on he's like the guy that gave himself the nickname Razor Fist and nobody else really wants to call him that. So he's got the personalized plates and the custom wrap on his electric vehicle.
Yeah, it's the one that says Taserface or Razor Fist.
There is a guy at work. I got to bring this up because it's killing me. There's a guy at work who has his own name tattooed on his arm. True. Also has branded T-shirts with his own face on them that he wears every single day that are different colors, and every single day has that. Then when you go to his truck, he's got a big sticker of his own face on his truck also. And it is so amazing to me that someone has to have brought it up. I'm too nice at work to say anything about it.
Is he like running for magistrate or something? Like that sounds like an ultra local politician move.
I think the problem is that he is a very small, diminutive man. Oh. And so when you have that immediately there has to be a grandiosity to you.
I gotta have a big personality. See?
Right.
Does he have, I mean, without being specific, does he have any level of public persona that justifies a branded T-shirt?
No.
Because, like, I feel self-conscious. I've got a couple of, like, I've got an HMP shirt. I think I've got an old Heroes and Villains shirt or two. I even kind of feel self-conscious wearing those unless it's like a panel or something.
Yeah, if you even go into the grocery store, it's like, why do I have a thing with my face on it? If I'm lounging around the house, it's not a big deal. But, like, yeah, you can't wear that in public.
However, I did make branded T-shirts for all my staff at work. So who am I to talk?
Oh, if you would like an HMP product, links are in the show notes. Figure out plug it. I'm going to make some more merch very soon because Maria wanted
Christmas,
some new merch.
Yeah, for Christmas last year, I gave all the people that work in my office a T-shirt with my face and a comic book bubble that says I am awesome, and it spells I-E-Y-E.
That sounds about as accurate as we can imagine.
Yeah, I should have sent you one, Adam.
You're never gonna be able to afford a pool with that T-shirt.
All right, before we get to our final Robin rating, we have to... I'm sorry. I'm skipping ahead in the script here. Before we rate it, we do need to find out how this new chapter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe relates back one-to-one with your hero in mind, Sylvester Stallone.
Well, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Go.
Well, hello, Mr. Stallone. How are things going with you? I'm doing well. It seems like I never hear from you. This week's movie is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and somehow there's only 7 producers involved with this movie. The movie we reviewed last week, because I was forced to watch it by our Patreon listeners, was Sonic the Hedgehog, and that movie had roughly 72 producers on it. So I have to ask you the question, Mr. Stallone, why was that movie so much harder to produce than Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi seems like a vastly superior movie anyway. The unit production manager on Shang-Chi is Charles Neuwirth. Now, unlike other Marvel producers, he's done a lot outside of the Marvel universe. He's worked on huge movies like Forrest Gump and Galaxy Quest and The American President. And unlike most producers, he started at the bottom. He was a production assistant on Can't Stop the Music, the world's best, first, and only biopic about the Village People. He's come a very long way since then, because these days he's the guy that says things like, please tell Sam Raimi that he needs to be done with the scene within the hour. And Sam Raimi will listen. That's juice. And you know who else has juice, Mr. Stallone? You do. The fact that you're the voice of Joe the Lion and Kevin James' 2011 affront to movie Jesus the Zookeeper. You're credited before Cher and Judd Apatow and Jon Favreau, who can literally do anything in Hollywood now. People will let him do anything. He could say, I want to drink grape Fanta out of Bob Hope's skull. And 4 different assistants would fly out of there, combing Los Angeles, looking at cemeteries, just at the snap of his fingers. And yet, you're higher billed than him. Very high quality, sir. Very high quality indeed. And you know who's listed as an executive producer on The Zookeeper? Yep, that's right. Charles Neuwirth. By the way, The Zookeeper, it had 12 producers on it. But I'm sure that's just a coincidence that the movie with less producers on it is a far, far better movie. Anyway, Mr. Stallone, I'm not sure how we got here, but we've reached the end of another segment of the Stallone Connection. Please tell your brother I said hello. I'll do better next week. I hope to hear from you soon. Your very good internet friend, Sweet Chauncey, from the internet.
Thank you, Sean. Now, before we get to our final rating, we got a new feature here at HMP. I wanted to see what our supporters over at patreon.com/HMP thought of Shang-Chi, and here's what a few of them had to say. At the 30-minute mark, my 8-year-old said, I don't like it. But by the end, he changed his mind. I enjoyed it and met my expectations overall, but I thought the exposition dragged at times. My question, the mid-credit scene implies the rings are sending a signal. To whom or what are they sending the signal? Cheers, that's from He-Hulk. Any idea on that one?
Well, He-Hulk is the big bad, whoever that might be, but I'm going to guess that it's...
I think it's Shumagorath.
I think it's Shane McGowan. It's not high on the list, but it might be.
Yeah, Shumagorath is a one-eyed tentacle beast from Doctor Strange comics that I think is the interdimensional big bad in the multiverse.
Oh.
Look at this guy. You heard it here first, everybody. This next one comes to us from Dave. It was so much fun. The bus fight, the sliding cage match, the scaffold fight, the dragon that vomited a magic map, the Planet of the Apes monkeys acting on horseback, the demon Cthulhu bats, the mega soul sucker, and then the last third was a fairy tale battle with Trevor teaching the kids soccer. I'm definitely going to see it again. This is easily in my top third of Marvel movies. If Crouching Tiger and Kill Bill had a baby that was bitten by a radioactive Big Trouble in Little China and Evil Dead baby was raised on the Miyazaki films and Kung Fu Hustle, you get Shang-Chi, and that's from Big Dave Movies. This next one comes to us from the Cincinnati Slingshot. Reasonably paced with good action sequences. The 2 fight scenes on the accordion-style commuter bus and the scaffolding outside the Dark Web Fight Club in Macau really stood out. Ben Kingsley did some solid scene stealing, especially on his diatribe on the motivation for his career in acting, coming from seeing the monkeys ride horses in Planet of the Apes. The final action sequence with the Great Protector and the Got Your Soul Monster felt a little anticlimactic for me. I thought the characters were pretty likable. I always feel like an antagonist with believable motivations makes or breaks a Marvel movie for me, and I thought Warrior King was pretty solid villain, and I enjoyed his arc. If you like Marvel movies, I feel like this was pretty solid entry. Talos looks like a chill place to spend a weekend. That's from the Cincinnati Slingshot. We got 2 more here real quick. Easily the best writing, or the best... this one comes to us from Nate. Easily the best dragon riding sequence in a comic book movie since Jor-El in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Nay, even better than that one. Eat it, David S. Goyer. All kidding aside, I feel like it could have used a little less story and a little more kung fu fight, and the fights were much more interesting than the plot, but overall, a very good movie. Low Tim Drake from me. That's from King Solomon's Frog. And the last one here real quick, it's arguably the best standalone MCU film in my book. It was an absolute tour de force of performance from everyone involved in the film. I thought it would be good because it was Marvel, but I never expected it to be expected it to move to the top of my Marvel movies. Definitely a strong Dick Grayson for me. If Shang-Chi doesn't get the highest Dick Graysons, y'all gonna have some splaining to do. That's from Justin St. Kitts Strawn of Olive Beach. Let's get to it there, boys. Here at Here Movie Podcast, we have our own Robin rating system. If you'd like to check it out, head on over to reddit.com/r/Here Movie Podcast. Bruce, where does Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings fall in the Robin rating system for you?
You know, I love it when Marvel or DC, either the big companies, make movies to reach an underserved audience. You know, and I Marvel's done a better job of it, but DC's trying also. And this is absolutely showing at the box office that there is a lot of money to be made by not just giving us more of the same. And I'm happy about that. And I like it that they're not just giving us more of the same. My wife said this is probably her favorite Marvel movie. The one before was Doctor Strange because she really likes visuals in the movies, and she loved the moving trees and the stuff with the water deal when they put the thing in the dragon's eyes.
Yeah.
But to me, this is a middle-of-the-pack Marvel movie. But a middle-of-the-pack Marvel movie is a pretty darn good movie. So, like, don't take that as a negative at all, but it's just not my top. Probably not my top 3 or 4, probably not my top 5, but I still had a great time. I would still put it about where King Solomon's Frog put it as, low Tim Drake. But that's still a pretty good movie rating. And also, I'm not the only person who wants to go see superhero movies. My wife's audience clapped and cheered. My audience didn't. Maybe you get a more diverse audience in New York City than you do in West Virginia. I don't know. But, it's a wide world out there, and everybody needs a superhero movie they can get behind. So I'm glad it's out there. But to me, low Tim Drake.
My screening was the least diverse of all. It was just me in the theater at 12 o'clock in the morning. But it was great because no one was there to say anything. Sean, what do you got?
For me, this movie was almost a Dick Grayson. It was so close. And then the final scenes happen, that fight scene. The 2 CGI dragons suck. I hate that scene so much. It felt like we were watching the Transformers movies because it's like shot around and like there's too much movement and you don't know what's happening. And I hated it. And you guys know my feelings on dragons. Dragons suck.
Man, don't like dragons.
I don't. I got a thing against dragons, guys. Mm-hmm. Every other part of this movie is so wonderful and terrific. And I love the way that the 10 rings work. I think that's so much cooler than the way that they work in the comic books. I like the characters. I cannot wait to watch Shang-Chi and a million other Marvel things. When he shows up, it's going to be, oh boy, here we go. That's going to be a great moment when it comes down the line. Hopefully no more dragons, though.
That dude shows up in whatever the next thing is. It's going to be like, there's a lot of butt kicking that's about to get happening over here.
Can you imagine
especially
if
with those rings,
and
man.
Daredevil are in the same room? Get out of here.
Could you imagine if every movie that Shang-Chi is in, the way they ended is calling that dragon to fight the bad guy?
If it is, then I'm out.
It's like the Megazord for Power Rangers.
If you call it the Dragon Boy.
I was about to say, if you think I complained a lot during the stupid Power Rangers movie, get ready.
We've tried everything that we possibly can. Bring in the dragon. And then they win. They end the day. That's great. For me, first of all, I will say this, Sean. I kind of agree. I do agree with you about the end there with the dragons and stuff. It is kind of the low light of the stuff again because we've seen so much great action, and a lot of this action is done with these nice wide shots and everything. You can tell that they know what's going on. So to have the big CGI thing at the end is a little bit disappointing. It's a lot like the kind of the blue flame at the sky, and you're just like, all right, I guess that's another thing that we're doing now. It doesn't really add too awful much to it, and it does just feel like people are riding around on green screen blocks and stuff. So that said, I still could not believe how good of a time that I had with this movie. I did not know that it was going to be, so strictly in a lot of ways a kung fu movie. And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of martial arts movies all around. And this was a solid entry into that and a solid entry into the MCU. And it gets you excited for what's coming up next. And, of course, we'll talk about what's coming next over there in our Dinger Zone. Ooh, how about that? Look at that tease. I'm so good. That'll do it, everybody, for this episode of Hero Movie Podcast. We'll talk about what we're doing next week in just a moment. But, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'm always asking folks to go check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. I'm wrapping up season 2 of Attack on Titan with reactions and reviews, and can't wait to get started on season 3. My goal is to be all ready when the second half of season 4 starts coming out in January, to be all caught up and to cover that in real time. And you can always check out my other podcast, Anime IO, where me and Chris talk about anime.
Indeed. Sean, what else?
We got a show called 30 Questions. It's a podcast. Check that out. It's pretty good. Especially, I love the Mandalorian stuff, personally. I want to get in there in the nooks and crannies and ask 30 questions of that stuff.
Can't wait for that show to get back and all the other good stuff. There's so many, it's so awesome to be like, hey, we already kind of know in the future we're getting this and we're getting this and we're getting this. And to believe that this show, we started out going like, I don't know if we're going to have enough time to cover, or if we're just going to cover everything and there won't be anything to cover afterwards. And that has proved to be the opposite of what we do. So do check out all of those 30 Questions show. Just type in 30 Questions wherever you find podcasts. You'll get all those. So next week, we're actually going to review a suggestion that was given to us by our friend and Patreon supporter Joe. He put this in for the what do you call it, for the Patreon vote and everything. We thought it wasn't available online, but it turns out you can get them on Netflix. So we're going to be talking about Gotham season 3 episodes 13 and 14. Those are Jerome episodes, and as I said, they're currently available on Netflix. So we'll be talking about those, the unofficial Joker arc, I guess, as it were.
And that's season 3?
Season 3, yes.
Episodes 13 and 14.
Yeah, I checked on them just to make sure. Oh my goodness! All right, we got it. Well, we got to get.
That was the chair.
I'm just glad we're all in the different location. So that will do it for this episode, everybody. Join us next week. We're talking about Gotham season 3, the Jerome episodes. First week, Sean Zakovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie. I'm Madam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty Navy.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up. They were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip and a kicking from the hip, everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. Yeah, but they fought with expert timing. There was Funky Billy Chin and Little Sammy Chung. He said, "Here comes the big boss. Let's get it on. We